And it says we're going live, and it says we're live.
Hi, welcome to the StockinetteZombies. I'm Amy, also known as Janitma.
And I'm Megan, also known as Just Run It, and this is episode 371.
Great.
Are you keeping cool at work? Is the air conditioning chugging away?
Oh, yeah, it is. Although we did get a building-wide notice to turn off lights when you're not there and to turn your blinds a certain way so that you can push the heat towards the sensors or whatever it was.
Oh.
So yeah, there was a little bit of that. I am not liking my hair today.
I feel like I never got so much use of my cardigans than when it was air conditioning season.
Oh yeah, I'm wearing a cardigan.
Because you have to, when you go out to the car, you're going to get baked, right?
Yes.
And when you're inside, so they're a nice transitional piece to okay, it's freezing in here, but outside, I know if I wore a full on sweater, I'd have to do an outfit change at the end of the day.
Yep. I'm not wearing sleeves. I have a little tank top here, and then yeah, it's not tank top season inside.
Yeah. We have Claire, Lisa, Laura, who is also joined by Sir Patrick O'Malley, Palm of Renown, and Miss Franny Fisher, Lady Detective, are also joining her, and Sandy. He typed all of that in, so I had to make sure that effort was fully worth putting who was all joining from her side. So yes, thank you for joining us.
That could be a keyboard shortcut for that's a tipper trick.
Yeah, just to add who's also involved. So fun. Yeah, Claire says she's melting in her house. It is very warm here as well. I know, Claire, where you're at, maybe don't have an air conditioner. I think I read in that you don't normally have these warm of temperatures to have to deal with. So it's kind of like getting snow in the South, right? They don't have the plows and the winter coats and whatever that we have up here in the winter, but yeah, it's days like these that I feel firmly in my belief that I'm supposed to be upper, I'm supposed to be with more cold than warm days.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I worked from home yesterday, and my upstairs office is warm.
Yeah. Well, you can always, we make things that we can put on, right? But there's always more that you can put on. And it doesn't stop me from going outside when it's bitter cold, right? I just put more on. Little concerned when my phone battery doesn't work when I'm outside, right? But other than that, I'm really good with the cooler temps. It has just been, I'm sure nothing compared to some of the southern locales and some of the heat waves they've been experiencing. But it's been a warm one. Absolutely. Did you have anything other than I feel like we always start with the weather now.
Honestly, no. I just got back from Iowa. It was hot there too, and saw my sister-in-law, and she brought her cat with her.
From DC?
Mm-hmm.
Excellent.
Yeah. So I don't
under
know
the seat in front of her in the airplane, or did she drive? Oh, sorry.
Drive.
Okay. Yeah.
I've
had the realization that I'm slowly turning into my grandfather recently. Yesterday we went, it was the first time Ellie needed to fill up her car. So we were just kind of we went to Costco with their cheap gas, and I was kind of walking her through, and don't over click and try to get too much gas in and whatever. And as it was filling up, she's like, how much do you think it's going to be? And I was like, well, knowing that you've got less than a quarter of a tank, I'm guessing it's going to be $60 because we have a Camry. I think it's got a 17-gallon tank, whatever. And she's like, okay, I'm going to guess 60.01. And can you guess what the thing auto clicked off on?
60.01?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But then the turning into the grandfather part is I felt compelled to tell the cashier in Costco about it. And I'm like, this is my story apparently that I'm telling people. But the funny thing is that she helped us shop because we had driven there separately and then like vamoosed. And I was like, well, how much do you think all of these groceries are going to be? Right. And I was within like $20 of a, $600 cart full of Costco refill. And then I felt compelled to tell that cashier about who am I becoming? I'm becoming my grandfather. He always had these little stories that he was telling everyone, which again, I love Vern, and he's keeping him in my memory, I guess. But yeah, and now you guys have gotten to hear it too. So there's that.
Yeah, that does sound like a grandfather thing, right? Like this cute little thing happened, and of course you're going to be interested in it. Of course you want to hear about it.
Exactly. Who wouldn't want to know about your daughter doing the Price is Right and getting it exactly right on the first car fill up, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, we are doing.
I was just going to say, when I was driving, you had to go in, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was no credit card swipe. So I was always good at getting that exact number when you had to fill it up exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I worked at a gas station, so I got to see a lot of people doing that. And yeah, and maybe that's why these kind of stories are enthralling to me, because those were the type of stories that my grandpa would come in and tell me at the gas station, or other patrons would come in and tell me at the gas station. But the other kind of funny thing, and again, I don't know if she's out and about yet, but like on the way there, we met up and had supper at Panera, and then I rode in the car with her, and she had the air conditioning off, and it was like 90 some degrees yesterday. And I'm like, turn the air conditioning. I'm conserving gas. And I'm like, I'm going to go fill up your, oh yeah, turn the AC on. But then immediately after we got the gas, turned to the AC.
How much mileage does that give you?
I don't know.
Can't be that much. Can't be worth it.
Well, you do burn through more gas when you're running an air conditioner. I'll give you that. I'll give her that. But anyway, very funny, very funny. Things that I did not see my daughter possibly doing. But okay, tips or tricks. I don't think I had any Administrati. We've got the self-striping KL going on, getting to the end of our musical craft along. And go out and fill out the survey if you're a ZKN member. That's all. Now tips and tricks.
Tips and tricks. I don't have a lot of rocket science here, but just a few things I thought I would mention is that I had in the sweater I finished. It's got a lot of ends to weave in, but I finished. But as I was laying it out to talk to you guys, I found a single ply that was grabbed in a stitch. And since it's already finished, I am going to have to go back through and duplicate stitch to reinforce that, so I don't end up with a breakage that ends up in an unraveling later on. I think it would have been more visible when I was blocking it, but as it stands now, I found it. So I'm going to inspect the rest of the sweater, make sure that I don't have more than one, and then fix it up via duplicate stitch. So just following the line of the knitting.
The partial strand.
Yep. Until I've gotten, I would say, at least an inch, including the stitch, but maybe a little bit more than that, 1.5 inches of up and down, back and forth in there. And then, yeah, just to reinforce that so I don't end up with an accidental unraveling.
Eek.
And then the other thing that happened, because I was traveling, I brought my handy dandy tiny Notions pouch that has all the things in it. It's got scissors and a tape measure, and it was supposed to have a knitting, or it only had these tiny needles for cross stitching in it, not actual darning needles. So I'm gonna have to remedy that. But yeah. And then I was thinking, like, oh, what's another tip related to these things? It's like, if you don't have one of these and you're like, or you want to make one, What I've been doing is I always buy extras of something, right? I have multiple pairs of scissors, multiple darning needles, multiple of everything, but they all seem to be spread out. So I gave myself a container. It's a very pretty bowl that an local artist made, and that's my catch-all. So whenever I find one of those things and it's not in place, it's not where it's supposed to be, I just put it in there. So now I know exactly where to go to get my needle that goes in here. But I found that I know that it's not rocket science, right? But as soon as you find that thing, you know exactly where it goes. It goes into that bowl, the catch-all, and then you can redistribute it to the things that travel as you need them.
Yeah.
And
I was going to say the only addition I have, so I have that tape measure. I've got stitch markers and like a little tin in here. So we did give like a, one of the squeezy things away at ZK, right? And I haven't started putting anything in there, but that's what I plan to do, put, extras in. But I separated, because I don't often need all three of my tried on tubing in at the same time. I separated out and just had one, like if you need to set aside some stitches or you needed to try something on, this is like my emergency in there as well.
okay.
Yeah. And then I've seen, and I think it's a great idea, especially if you're kind of, so for example, I'm using this bag over and over again for my mucil burrows that, once you get done with your darning needle, you can put it on one of those like bulb locking stitch markers, and you can just attach it inside of the bag. If you're not putting like a full, but you could do that with your little quilted bag too, right? Like you could put it on a locking stitch marker and put it within the bag.
So it doesn't get lost. Yeah. Because
I don't know if that's what happened or if you just didn't have one in there, but
no, I don't. I think that this particular one, I must have used it and set it down, right? Instead of back into the bag. And that's what happens to all those things, right? And that's why I don't know, semi created the catch-all dish. Kind of like when I'm removing, and the catch-all is usually at the table next to me where I most often knit. So that when, I need something, it's right there, but also I know where things go if I find them in other places in the house. Like, oh yeah, I put it at the side table that's in the basement instead, and then you find it and you're like, oh, okay, it goes into the one where I normally sit.
I can't remember why I'm blanking on it. The home edit, they talk about that it's kind of like your command station, right? And you need to have things that are like the high touch, like within reach type thing, but also that that's where you're going to be serving things out of as well, right? They haven't done a craft space yet. I would welcome that. But because I'd love to see somebody's craft space at home edited. But yeah, that command center.
Craft ones are hard because there's a they have the edit part.
Yep.
I was like, I don't know how good we'd be at the edit part.
Yeah. But the edit part is very freeing as well, right? Like once you've decided like, nope, this is clogging, because that's the message that they give them, right? Like this is clogging up your ability to use the really nice things that you have. So like prioritize what you've got so that you have more access to the stuff that you should be using, right? Yeah.
I suppose I do have 2 ball winders, or 3. But what if one of them breaks? Gosh forbid, right?
Yeah. Yes. That's it?
Well, the other tip was that everybody should knit one of these. I love this thing so much. This the Velocor.
Now that it's done, you've gotten past it takes so many rows to get just an inch.
Yes, I've gotten past the painful points and I got to try it on, and yeah, everybody should knit one. Yeah,
excellent.
I moved back to my bubble cardigan, and that was another one where it's like, oh yeah, I got to remember where I was and what I was doing. So my other tip is that to also check your gauge. when you pick up a long-term project, because I had to rip back 4 rows because I was knitting way tighter
Oh,
than I
wow.
was originally, right? Like
Yeah.
I looked at it and went, wow. I mean, it was a big difference in gauge.
How did you fix it? Did you go up a needle size or did you like just kind of think
Think
looser
loose
thoughts?
thoughts. Yes.
That's one of my favorite things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think loose
Just
thoughts.
think
Yep.
loose thoughts, and honestly, that's what it was. Like, I think I was watching Stranger Things and I was just like really tight stitches because of all of the like tense
You need to
moments. And,
calm down. You're
and I
knitting
just
too
needed to,
tight.
yes. Yeah. I
Sorry.
just needed
Taylor
to,
Swift is now playing in my head. You need to calm down. Yeah.
oh, mhm. But yeah, so that's all I had really. I mean, again, keep
That's a
spinning.
lot. That's a lot.
I, I love spinning, and everybody should, when Tour de Fleece comes around, if you're a spinner, kind of rededicate yourself, because I haven't been spinning for at least a couple years now, at least more than like 1 bump a year. And
Mm-hmm.
to get into the groove where now I've like spun up 3 bumps, I'm like, oh, this is fun. I'm going to keep going. So,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that was what I was going to ask you until you shared the Stranger Things portion. I'm like, is the spinning getting all of your zen? And now when you're
oh,
knitting, you're like, oh.
no, yeah. Again, I was working on socks as well, and I'm usually very tight with when I knit socks. They're like iron,
Yeah.
And so I switched from socks to this long languishing project. And again, I just wasn't thinking about gauge when I started knitting. I just started knitting. If I had taken a second to look at the gauge before I started knitting, I think I would have recognized that I was knitting too tight, for what it was in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was a couple rows that I just left in there because those were the difficult rows. There's one where you have to drop down and pick, I was like, not
The
that row.
futzy, the kind of more,
Yeah,
complicated maneuver. Yeah.
yeah, that one stayed put, but the stockinette ones, they got ripped back because it
Yeah.
was way tight. It was noticeable. Like, I have a feeling if you saw that cardigan as a knitter, like, why does that hot pink row look so different than the rest of them?
Yeah.
It would be a little bit noticeable.
Yeah. So my tips and tricks are all about mixing it up, whether that's stirring your stash, using 2 different yarns, or like, so for example, I wanted to share, again, not rocket science, right? So again, sorry if I've already shared this, and sorry if it's like, well, duh, but sometimes the well, duh stuff we need to hold up and like realize like, oh, that is kind of a thought, right? Um, I am doing half and half of 2 colors and oftentimes when I am doing the remainder of a skein, I will start the hat with that side because I know that that's my limited resource. So for example, in this hat, the gray is a little heavier. And so I didn't do a great job in the previous one. I had over 50 grams to play around with, but it's closer to a sport weight. So I knew it wasn't going to go as far. So I started out with the gray. And then that way, when I got to the end, you can see I did, I ended with the orange solid for quite some time before I quit striping. Or I quit striping and then I ended with that solid before I got to the crown, just because I knew I was going to possibly run out of gray, and then I did. And I also knew like if with it's on somebody's head, you're not going to notice it as much like here. You would notice it more like in the middle, right? So the top of the crown has a little bit more of a solid region than the other end. You're never going to see it, A, because it goes inside of itself, and B, it's hard to notice. So start with your limited resource, especially if you're doing something that at the end you can kind of improv and deal without the other color.
Yeah, my bubble tee is good, or bubble cardigan is going to be the same way because I was using that limited resource of the kit, right? The mini skein kit.
Yep.
And I only have so much. I might even like divvy those up ahead of time, like half and half for the sleeves, so I don't run out of the resource in the middle.
Yeah. That's not good.
No.
At the end, maybe, right? Yeah. The other thing, I just put in a really, it felt like a large order to Knit Picks, because as I'm doing these hats, I'm finding I need more mixers. So like, kind of solid skeins. This one is a little less solid. I believe it's like the chroma fingering. So it gradiates from like a super light color to a darker color back to the light here. But I've been using those up and they've been great, right? I feel like they're a really great way to stretch maybe a more precious indie dyed skein, right? Mixing it with like a Knit Picks solid, or even when you just kind of need that like solid to tone down a super variegated skein. Amy looks frozen. Okay, there we go. You're moving again.
I was very still for a while and you were breaking up for me. So I was like, well, I better move a little bit so she knows that I'm actually here.
Yeah. So again, put in an order of like navies, grays, blacks, plan to use them on socks, sweaters, hats, right? Like just to have some solids, some bases. Cascade would be great. Knit Picks had some of their solids on sale recently, so I ordered those up. And again, I feel like they play kind of that supporting role, right? Like they elevate, they're great to mix in, but they elevate and let the other colors sing. So yeah, finding that, the allure of those super variegated skeins, sometimes they can't be worked up by themselves. It's nice to have like on hand, like, okay, I'm going to grab a navy skein because it's going to really make this one pop. And maybe it's not by the same dyer, or maybe it's not, another indie dyed skein. It's just something to have on hand. So, and then last, but certainly not least, I did do some stirring / mixing up of my stash as I was looking for mixers for another project. So I think last time I mentioned the Penelope tea by Juliet Work, I believe is her Instagram and designing name. And while I was in there, I came across, do you remember when we were at Darn It Anyway? And I think I grabbed the yellow and the navy of this Remix Light. It was languishing in my stash and I really wanted to make something. And lo and behold, have you seen the No Sweat shirt written up for this, right? Again, I'm going to have to mix them because I don't have enough to make a hoodie out of, the number of skeins that I got. But super excited to be making a striped No Sweat shirt out of my Remix Light. So
yeah, I have some of that too. I have the red and yellow still. I had already made the pink, but not enough of that to mix it in. But was thinking, ooh, yeah, that's a good idea. Mine would be Wonder Woman or Harry Potter themed because, or I should say Gryffindor themed.
Yeah,
because of the red and yellow. But
yeah, I'm wondering how this is this might end up being like Go Michigan, right? With my blue and yellow. I think you can run into that with striping, right? Where it looks a little bit more sporty.
Yeah,
one of the samples that I saw out in the project pages though had like micro stripes. So it wasn't like, 4 or 8 or, large chunks. It was more, and then it's flipped inside out. So the purl side is out. So I think that'll be a nice way to like blend without it seeming like team themed, I guess.
Yeah, that sounds like the sample knit that Farmer's Daughter's Fiber was showing.
That is where I saw it. That is where I saw it. Yeah. Yep. So very yeah, I think her sample knitter had the project page out on Rav. So yeah.
Yeah, definitely the reverse stockinette caught my eye for sure. Yeah, with that one.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and again, I think that would be another great one that if you didn't have to stripe, it would do again with that reverse stockinette. I feel like that really blends, the pearls really blend any kind of, variegation. So if you've got some some spare skeins sitting around. You know, so the Remix Light is a blend of like linen and cotton and nylon and acrylic and silk. But I feel like you could probably make that no sweat shirt out of fingering on large needles as well. It would just be really drapey.
I thought it was written for fingering, but maybe you're right. It's not.
Remix Light is actually a DK.
Right. But I was just trying to think of what the sweatshirt was written for. You said
it's written for Remix Light. Yeah.
So yeah, the one that was made for Farmer's Daughter's Fiber was fingering.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be that sweatshirt would be the hoodie would be really fun in Queen City's new Coleman too, because that's a DK weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
So similar weight as this. Yeah. Be a drapey fabulousness.
Making a hood out of that. A lot of yardage.
Be fabulous. Think about and I bought it. So I think there's like a pointy hood option and a more rounded hood option too.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
I would go rounded, I think.
That's where I'm headed as well. But so yeah, I'm excited about some summery / getting into cooler weather. Maybe I'm trying to like manifest some cooler weather. some of my knits. I've been knitting hats all year, so there's that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
mix it up. Yeah, mix it up for sure. Yeah, I really do want to stir my stash and put some more cast-ons together, but I've been enjoying finishing things. So I think that bubble cardigan is kind of, I'm going to do that. I'm going to finish that and get that.
Because you started it around Advent season, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then I put it down for our KL because it wasn't, I don't know, it wouldn't have counted, right? So I set it down. But I'm so close to starting the sleeves. And then I think once I get to those sleeves, I'm going to work them each stripe match, I'm not going,
back and forth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Work them at the same time so that once I'm done. And I'll get the fun colors aspect of it and won't run out of a specific color, right? I'll know exactly what I have and what I need to do to keep them even. And yeah, I'm excited to get that one done. So I might become semi-monogamous for that. I know, right? Other than the sock is traveling with me. The bubble cardigan's way too much fabric at this point to take with me.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, again, just kind of some stream of consciousness, things that we think about that we're doing, maybe not rocket science, but tips and tricks all the same. Yep. So yeah, thanks for joining us as we kind of think of things that we're doing that might be helpful to others.
Yep. Bye.
Bye, Uvta. All righty.